Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and today we're going to be taking a look at Ladybounce's unaired underdog battles. So good news is they're uncut, and I'm excited about the fact that I get to see all the battles that took place. Downside, however, is these are separated based off of the groups, not off of the battles. So I will not be able to make my guesses unless I come across, at a certain point, the other person they're up against battle. That will be the only time I could do that. But I'm gonna do my best to still analyze, give my thoughts on the strength of their set to see how competitive it would be just in general in their freestyle. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Okay, this is Nope. Nope. This is no. More of an afro. Oh, she's against a Wolflow girl. Yeah, so she's taking an afro approach, but also notice she's kind of repeating. Would have been interesting if she went against somebody from Jam, like from Kirsten. So, do some fast feet here. And they're called happy feet, right? With a butterfly. So she had some fundamental afro stuff in her set here. Yeah. 4, 3, 2, that was fun. Okay, so let's talk about that one. We're gonna dial it back just a smidge here. So I know I really try hard to not make assumptions of how battles are gonna go, but just from who I've seen come out of Wolflow so far and knowing how strong they are as battlers, do I think that's strong enough against her opponent? Probably not, is how I feel, even though I haven't even seen her opponent yet. So I'm not going to really dive into that as much until I get to the Wolflow one. Then I can dive in a little bit more because I technically at this point have not seen Wolflow yet out of these groups. But taking a look here, I like her setup here, you know. But I will say that's that do-do-do-do-do-do. Do I think she hit that? She kind of hit at the top, so I don't know if she knows the song, but she knows the vibe in the back. So that's something really interesting too, is that whenever you study styles or whenever you're understanding exploration of different genres of music, you kind of get used to the fingerprints of what makes that style genre what it is. So for this song, you have more of that tribal percussion, more nature-esque or organic percussion. So nothing that's really has heavy synth in it as much. Of course, you may, for the sense of like the 2023, that new era, dance hall and new era afro, specifically like afro house. There's so many different subgenres, but going back to this kind of song, I think it's really important for us to note that those fingerprints really help us whenever we freestyle, because whenever I hear a song and I've never heard it before, I can still dance to it fairly decently if I'm familiar with the fingerprints or the context of what that backbeat of that song is based out of. Like I can tell a house song's gonna have that in the back, right? And then sometimes I can utilize that with whacking too, but whacking has its own genre. And popping, there's that heavy bass that happens, you know, where that pocket's different because it's funk style, right? So I think that's something important to note here, that she may not have known the song, or maybe she did, maybe not enough, but I love this moment here, but I really wish she didn't do it twice. She goes down, but like her connection of things is very simple. It's very easy to digest, but not in a good way. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's a way that you can do a lot of these, and if you get the essence and the nuance right, you're gonna be sitting pretty in these kind of things, right? And she's kind of hitting that camel walk a little bit. That's an afro. I call it a camel walk because of, you know, just how I learned it. But because an afro is probably called something else. So if somebody can help me with that, it's not the network, because that's its own little like party dance. She doesn't do, you know, do you notice she's doing very, very basic viral afro moves that you see in what's trending and that's viral. But she's hitting the music well, you know, she's matching the music mighty fine. Yeah, so I like that she's taking some risks here, going to the floor, you know, and I just go boom, like that's a sound tonal color that I want you to recognize, is that, but also how that rhythm's a fingerprint of the style. You know, I feel like she's kind of tapping or utilizing her hips, not quite as diverse as she could. Do I think this was strong? Let's say it's pretty average. Is it strong against a Wolflow member? No. in comparison to who I've seen just based on their track record, but we'll get into them later. Okay, so this is Vessi, right? Oh, this is Vessi's full uncut. So I technically didn't get to see it in comparison to Audrey, but I've seen Audrey's. So okay. Yeah. Do I think it's a bit simple? Yeah, but I think I talked about this before whenever she was doing it. You normally don't do Vogue in this context. You don't. You normally go down a catwalk or a runway. Not catwalk, or you just go down a runway. So I think she did pretty decent in her circumstances. Yeah, but also I think it wasn't that strong as it could have been, personally. Let's take a look here. We're going to go back. So Ladybounce so far, though, I like the fact that they're so different. You know, we had somebody really try to tackle and take risks in an Afro pocket. We could tell she has more of a Vogue aesthetic. How she choreographs is that way, and how she holds herself is very much that way too. I do find it interesting, her shoe choice, but also, I mean, I'm not one who dances in Uggs. This isn't my technical, that's not what I typically wear when I dance or teach either. So I think it could just be the aesthetic that's hers. You know, she's starting with a lot of hand posture, hand movements here. But even then, though, like, she's hitting, you know, like how she's hitting in her walks, I do like, but do I feel, and I know what she's motioning over here is, hey, focus on me, not the judges. She's like, come at me, and then she is, you know. I love that moment. That's, you know, that's nice. But also this song it is, because you hear that like that sound, that's a Vogue fingerprint. So I would say the DJ's done a fabulous job of trying to meet the dancers where they are. If he knows that a particular dancer has a particular style, he really does a good job of creating, or like giving them multiple pockets that they can swim through in these song choices. Now, do I feel like she's making like, I like that, you know, but maybe the crawl after, I feel like I think a different choice would have been better. Her just kind of hitting that same posture here, but just kind of making her little small walks. I really wish that she kind of, you know, changed her level, changed her dynamic, changed her flow a little bit more. You know, is she operating at a slight disadvantage because this isn't a typical battle structure? Maybe, don't really know, but I feel like you can still hold your own, no problem. You know, I feel like she's kind of repeating a little too much. Into a bridge, you know, so I mean, she's making creative choices, but I feel like overall, in comparison to what Audrey brought to the table, I feel like hers was a tad bit simplistic for what the round called for. So I do stand by my decision I made with them. Oh, so it's Vessi again. I wonder who's she against this time. So she's still keeping it very simple. Simple patterns. Where in Vogue you can do so much more. I would say her floor works better, more of an improvement in difficulty, but I think it looks like she's eating up time. Yeah, she's still hitting normal. Okay, out of the two rounds, I think she was stronger in this round, but also I will say, for what she did, it was still simple. I like this setup here with the hits, and then I love the melts into there. But notice she did 4. Like, she could have done boom, boom, doom, doom, you know, like really switched it up. Yeah, I just feel like whenever she does this, it's too simple. She should really diversify that outside of just it just feels basic. She's doing basic Vogue when she could be doing, you know, like she does like a basic rhythm pattern versus actually trying to hit the musicality of the music. Now, is this like a Vogue song? I mean, you could do Vogue to it, obviously, because that's what she's doing. But I feel like, you know, I think she could do a ton more. It just feels very elementary in patterns. Not saying an execution. Her execution, I would say, is pretty decent. I would, however, you know, I would say a lot of these transitions, she's taking risks, and I feel you could tell she's not super familiar with them, or she just hasn't honed in and practiced them as much as she could have. You know, but look, she even, as she approaches her opponent, she does it again, just like she did with Audrey, so she's already repeating herself a lot, regardless if this was the first or the second. That's just a fingerprint you really gotta watch whenever you Vogue or you do any battles at all. Now, whenever you do the dips, that changing of how you do it, like how you go down and how you diversify it, is just as important, because that is one of the key pivotal things of what makes up your set in Vogue. So I feel, you know, I think she's doing a better job with that than she is with other components, you know. But I mean, all in all, I would hope that sorry, my brain lagged for a second. I would hope that in the future, like as we see her, that both in her choreography and if we see her battle again, and I know in this show it would be if it was an elimination, so I would, you know, I hope all crews make it to the end, of course, but if Ladybounce falls into a position where they have to do an elimination match, then I would hope that there is some a sense of growth in her choices as a performer. So like, this is fun. Like, that was nice. I really like that sequence that she did there. Yeah, like, this is what I wanted to see in the other stuff. But even that, she's still hitting like a basic pattern. You know what I mean? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 4, 5, 6. Going the other way. Like, you shouldn't be that predictable whenever you're battling. You know, and I feel like she was just melting through and finishing and all that. But I mean, personally, going back to this one, I don't know what happened with this. I don't know if it was a rematch or something happened. So we're there, we finished this. Oh, it's a different song. Hold on, sorry. Okay. So this setup was really nice. She really got into it, fun. Like, you know, you know, I feel like different, that was nice and different. I liked that. Coming in, swing. That right there. I wish we saw that in the other stuff. This is the first time, and I've already seen her, this is her third round now. I haven't seen her do any rotational nuances in comparison to just this, like I said, and that's my point. So, like, I'm glad I got to see at least something like that. Like, that's fun. She knows a song 1, 2, 3, and 4, making some risk in her balances, but also in that she's not holding it. So if I'm to compare, whenever you do balances like that, I would say with Sarah, she held, boom, and then she like progressed to keep it, make it a part as a focal point. For there, it's just balancing for the sake of making it harder. Like, that was a nice drop coming back up. But how she's choosing to do these arch rotations, these hinges, how she's coming up, she is still keeping it more simplistic in how dynamic you can be when you Vogue. You know, like, even all this, she really took up all of her time here when I feel like she could have ended it a little differently. So all in all, I would say Vessi, she, out of all the people I've seen in Ladybounce, I mean, I've seen her battle the most, quote unquote, at this point. I do feel that she could have done better in diversifying her vocabulary or her terminology that she chose to expose in her battle rounds, especially with Vogue. It is there's very much a battle culture within Vogue in comparison to a lot of the styles that is represented in Korea, mind you. So I find it interesting. I think I am left a bit not disappointed, but wanting more, especially from a style like Vogue. I think the expectation of how you battle it is a little bit higher, which, is it fair to her? Maybe not, but like with whacking, we've seen with the people who are whackers, they're holding their own because they're world-class battlers, right? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like Vogue, I wish that Vogue was represented in the same way in the show. That's just my thing. All right, here we go. Gaburi? Right? Kaburi. I know I saw her in the dance rank, so I'm curious how she's going to battle. Okay, so she's running into, she knows the song. That can really bite you if you're not used to battling. Who's she battling? Oh, is she? Okay. So I think it's interesting the fact that I couldn't really tell who she was battling until, you know, around near the end of this. Okay, her knowing this song really worked against her. Let me tell you why. Because when you know a song, sometimes you want to ride the groove of the song in a choreographic pocket, which is something you need to try to avoid whenever you're doing freestyle. I've mentioned this before when I've reacted to other battles. A freestyle skill set and a choreographic skill set are different, and the pockets can be similar. So that verbiage was more off. I would say it's what you utilize within a song is different. What is required of you in a freestyle context is different than choreography. Choreography, you have time to set up tone. You have a set amount of time to be able to get your point across. Ladybounce's group choreography battle against 1 Mil in their crew battle was really nice, and I loved it because it was so different than what I was expecting from them. They had gimmicks, they had dynamics, they had texture, technique. It was great, you know, but I will say here, I feel like her pocket is very simple. She's choosing predictable grooves in the track versus playing around, going around. She was also, I think, not focusing on her opponent as much as she should, because even now, I have no idea who she's against. I'm assuming it's her because I saw her come off the ground and she's the one she's paying attention. But honestly, you know, her groove is nice, but it's too simple. Do you know what I mean? In comparison to whenever you watch Wolfflow. When Wolfflow's groove is similar to this, Supa kills this, but notice that they were riding different levels of their pocket differently here. There she's hitting on the bass or in the bleed, you know, and she's trying things. Like she's hitting typical choreography layers and she's like sectioning it off versus integrating a lyric into the music, into the tone, into the backbeat. Like all of it needs to connect and make sense. Right now she's like blocking it off. So I think that's kind of how you can tell the difference between a freestyler and a choreographer that's freestyling. Or that's like their dominant thing, is that a choreographer is so used to making information digestible, and so they're translating that here. You want it to be digestible, but then when they take risks, the risks don't come across as fluent, or they come across too simplistic. Like it's opposite ends of the spectrum. It's either like really organized but too simple, or it's overly complex where it's not clear and it's not readable. And somebody who's a freestyler or who practices within their craft, there's a healthy medium of they want it digestible, but they are so complex in their exploration and they're fluent in their exploration. They're able to make it readable while taking risks and being complex. So I hope that makes sense in some way. So I want you to notice that here, like a lot of her nuances are not clear, you know, as much as they could be, or they're overly simple. Like they're hitting both sides, they're hitting in the 2s and the 4s, they're not hitting on the Andianas, do you know what I mean, unless it's lyrics that they know. So that's my big note for her. Yeah, like she's hitting in something a little too long. Yeah, hat, boom, boom. She's doing a Dougie rhythm. But then even then, she's not really facing an opponent. Yes, it goes hit, She could have done a different thing, you know, but she chose the same rhythm the whole time. Okay, yeah, so that's who she's battling there. I haven't seen Jams Uncuts yet, so I'm curious how those would be. So all in all, Ladybounce, not as strong in freestyle as they are in choreography, based on what I saw here. I will say their crew battle is, the only one that I really see was 1 Mil and Ladybounce's crew battle. I hope to see the other ones. I hope they release those at some point. But all in all, I feel like their choreography is significantly stronger than how they hold themselves in battles. That's just, I was kind of to be expected, but I think out of everybody, the one who I think was the most underwhelming in comparison to my expectations was Vessi, because of her background in Vogue. I don't know her background as much, but just knowing if you're going to carry a Vogue pocket or presence in choreography, normally it's easier to connect to the community with that type of style in comparison to other styles. So that's just my overall note and vibe with this particular group. Yeah, but here's the thing. I love watching these, and so it was enjoyable to watch and be able to analyze, and I'm excited for the discussions for this as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful in some way. I hope I touched on something that maybe either you didn't notice or something that you also noticed, and that we get to appreciate it together. I'm excited for the discussions, like I've already said, about this one and all the other crews. I'm going to be releasing these throughout the week, and it's going to be awesome. So thank you again, and I will check you on the flip side. Bye guys.